Hey everyone, this is Trig Day 5, so this is our last day for the week. So the last thing that we are going to do with Trig this week is solving to find an angle instead of a side. So this is very similar to what we did yesterday, it's just the piece of information that we're missing is different. So we want to do the same thing for our setup. I have my angle here, and then I want to list what sides I have. So this is my opposite side, and this is my adjacent side. So I'm going to be using tangent because we have SOHCAHTOA. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. So I've got tangent of theta equals 5 over 5. Okay, so for this question, we can't really solve anything when we have the angle inside the parentheses here. We don't know how to get that out. So in order for us to do that, we're taking the inverse of it. And remember, inverse just means switching your x and your y. So this technically is my x. This is technically my y. So I'm just swapping the places of those and I'm taking the inverse. And remember, that's what that little -1 symbol there is. That means inverse. I'm doing the opposite. So I've got the inverse tangent of 5 divided by 5 equals theta. So if you look on your calculator, there is a button on top of the regular trig functions that has like the little -1. So if you're using a calculator, you have to hit the second button and then type that in. So for this question, we should be getting 45 degrees. So make sure you're using the inverse function. You're not just hitting tangent. You have to make sure that it has that little -1 there, that inverse. Okay. So for these, there's not really much to solve. It's just you have to remember that you're taking the inverse. So I'm going to do the same thing for question number 2. Here's my angle. 10 is my hypotenuse, and then 4 is my opposite. So I'm going to be using sine because sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So I've got sine of theta equals 4 over 10. So I can't solve that like that. So anytime that I'm finding an angle, I have to take the inverse. And if you remember that, you don't even really need to write this first step. You can just swap their places and you can start right here. If you type that in, that's totally fine. So I'm doing the inverse sine of 4 divided by 10. And I get theta is equal to 23.5782. And there's my angle there. Okay. Question number 3. Here's my angle. 3 is my adjacent, and then 20 is my hypotenuse. So I'm writing out cosine inverse of, because I'm solving for an angle, I'm skipping that first step, 3 over 20 for this question equals theta. And remember, theta is just another way to solve for an angle. It's just a variable that we use specifically for angles. So I'm doing the inverse cosine of 3 divided by 20, and I get 81.3731. There's my angle there. Okay, so same thing we've been doing, just make sure that you're labeling your sides correctly and you're using the right trig function. Other than that, pretty simple. Okay, last question is a word problem for us. So we have a ladder is propped up against a house. The ladder is 30 feet tall and is hitting the house 20 feet up. What angle is the ladder making with the ground? So first thing, make yourself a picture. So we've got the ground. We've got the ladder at an angle here. And then we have the house. Okay, so the ladder is 30 feet. So that's this slant right here. That's 30. And then it says that it's hitting the house 20 feet up. So right here, this side where it's hitting, sorry, my hand was in the way there. Right here where you're hitting, that's your 20. Okay, and then we're trying to figure out what the angle is that the ladder is making with the ground. So here's the ladder, here's the ground, there's the angle between them. Okay, so now that we have it all set up, we're just gonna do the same thing that we did up above. So here is my angle, the 20 is my opposite, and then the 30 is my hypotenuse, so I'm using sine. So I've got sine of theta equals opposite, which is 20, over hypotenuse, which is 30. I'm solving for an angle here, so I have to do the inverse of 20 over 30, and that's gonna give me my angle. So then I'm just plugging that into my calculator, the inverse sine of 20 divided by 30, and I get 41.8103. And there's my answer. Okay, so anytime that you are doing a word problem, please, please, please draw yourself a triangle so you know where everything is located. And even like put what each thing is. So like, this is my ladder because it's at the angle. Here's the house that it's hitting. Here's the ground. Okay, so you need to make sure that you're drawing and you're putting your information in the right spot. Other than that, just make sure you're labeling your sides correctly and you're using the right trig function. So go ahead and do your homework for trig day 5, and then you are all done for the week.